Moving into Nancy. So we're doing a double feature because we weren't on last week.
The
So
double features are back.
they are it's so fun. I feel like these were the two of the best episodes to do double features on.
They were, I loved them. They were great.
And they were so different too. Like we start out with a time travel episode, like we're in the 70s just cause. Like it's just really fun.
Both standalone too, technically.
True. Yeah. I mean, like they furthered the character development, but we kind of were just vibing.
Yeah, I loved it.
Actually, it's interesting that they did 70s and then episode 7 of the season is 80s. I wonder if we'll get 90s.
Ooh, I want it.
I did too. I
Have we
wonder
had a
if we'll get.
flashback to like we've had flashbacks, right? To Ryan and Lucy in the 90s.
We have we have had flashbacks to Ryan and Lucy in the news, but not like it wasn't the whole episode though. Like it was
Probably
just
wouldn't fit, but like I want it.
like a dream sequence or something where she gets
Yeah.
dropped in there somewhere. It'd be really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, Nancy time travel again.
But speaking of the time travel episode, though, Tristan is back. I
He
was
was.
excited to see him again. It had been a bit. He was just as adorable as he has been since the beginning, since we've met him. I think that I really like him in Nancy's chemistry. Kind of wish this wasn't happening in the final season. But I mean, I kind of adore them. Their vibe, like for as an interim relationship, I like it.
Yeah. I I don't know if it'll ruffle any feathers, but like I enjoyed their scenes together. And I know like there's the bigger picture, Nancy and A stuff going on. There's a lot of anxiety around that. But like when he comes to her door in the suit with the flowers, like I don't know, like they did it so successfully to like build that chemistry and to like make that moment feel like something. Like, and I don't know if it would be something that I would particularly root for or like want to see like more of, like a fully like formed relationship. Maybe if this was a show in like 2001 and it had 22
Mhm.
episodes, we would have room to explore that. But like for what it is, for I know we don't have much time with them, but like from what we've gotten so far, like I feel like it's enough for me. Just a little like appetizer, depending on where we're going with it. Like we still don't really know the extent of what this connection is. I don't want to call it a relationship. But but yeah, I really enjoyed it the way that they played well off of each other. It was a different kind of pairing for Nancy
Mhm.
to be on a like supernatural journey with. Like it was really fun. And I know there's theories, and I don't know if we want to get into any theories about Tristan, but like looking back, I'm kind of like, maybe the fans are onto something about Tristan. But like I didn't have any of those theories while watching. I just took it at face value as like this, he's just some regular dude who's suddenly in supernatural world and he's like, oh wow, he's just taking it all in stride. Um, so I don't know, it worked for me. The whole thing worked for me. And I guess it's just I'm easy to please in this final season. I'm letting it happen to me, so I'm like, I'll take anything. I don't care.
I think they've done a good job establishing it's kind of like it's rebound, right? Like you can
Yeah.
feel that it is, and not that that's not like a put down. It seems like it's a very he's a person in her life who's getting her out of her breakup funk, and he doesn't really know what's going on back there. He's not tied to their friend group in any way. He just delivers seafood to the claw. So it's a way for Nancy to have a connection, not romantic relationship, but just a bond with somebody who is not entangled with her in any way. Like it's um, her friends are kind of weighing in, but they're not weighing in and like he's a part of the friend group. They just know he's a dude that likes her and she kind of likes him and like see what's going on over there. I enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoy that she's lighter around him because
Hmm.
oftentimes this season Nancy by necessity it feels really heavy because she's going through a lot and she's her heaviest obviously around Ace and she has some of that around her friends too because they know what's going on. So when she's around Tristan she's lighter
It's just
and
different. It's another
it's
world.
different and it's
Yeah.
nice. Their little trapeze around 70s, her shoe bay and figuring things out was cute. His excitement over, being time traveling, I thought was really great. And it was nice to have a character who's like, who knows about this. So he's super excited instead of like really freaked out. It's just another adventure for him. And that he decided to get her mind off of things by asking her to prom, which I
Yeah.
think she didn't go to her prom because of her mom passing, correct?
Yes, that's what she said. I think it's really essential for Nancy, not only as a character, but for the story to have someone that makes her feel desired again, or someone that makes her
Mm-hmm.
feel loved. Because that, I think, at the center of this whole situation is kind of what she's feeling. Like she's feeling rejected by Ace. Kind of, I don't want to speak for her. I know she's spoken, but that's what I'm getting, kind of connecting these two threads. And I think it's really important to show that no matter where it goes, whether it's just like this is the totality of this relationship is her just feeling like she's able to feel these feelings again, or if she actually does feel something for Tristan that can be more than just a time travel slow dance one off.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it is sort of her way of being able to be romantic when she can't be romantic with the person that she'd wanted to be with.
Yeah, it's like escapism, kind of.
Yeah, which is like fine. I think he kind of knows what it is. Like he's not pushing for anything more than what she's giving, which is nice. I thought their whole like spider adventure, like the dream, was it dream spider, time travel spider, whatever the official name they gave that arachnid, is it arachnid was cool. I don't know. I mean, I didn't like seeing all the big giant spiders, even though they were very nice CGI work there. Like it
It
just
was
felt
good.
felt really good. But I like that it was sort of all, by the time they realized what was really going on, it was all hands on deck once he escaped and she couldn't get back through the streamers to her front group. And I like that they were sort of separate and then everybody else had their own thing going on. Like you have Ace trying to find Chunky and Nick being pulled along for the ride.
Heard my favorite word, chunky. Before we get to chunky, it was I don't know what I want to say about this, but it was Ace that like ended up he like killed the big spider to save Nancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was I've seen fans say this too, like he says like love is not death, or like that's not
That was
like
not
that's the
dying for someone you love. Like you're not supposed to do
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
then he like goes and he's like throws himself at this big spider to stab it in the chest, and it was kind of like okay, interesting. Um, but yeah, the relationship dynamics that went on between time travel and spiders and ferrets, there was a lot more to unpack than I could have imagined.
It really became metaphors for things. It was amazing.
I was like, y'all, we're doing too much. He just released the ferret because he didn't want to take credit. He saw her dancing and he was like, I'm gonna bow out. I'm not gonna take credit anymore for the ferret. I'm gonna let her find the ferret on her property. And that was not what happened.
It was deeper than that, which is funny because in our group chat, just to share with everybody else, I was screaming about how like justice for Chunky, like he shouldn't
Yeah,
have brought
chunky
home
rights.
the Chunky rights. And Reed was like, I promise you they're gonna update you in the next
They did,
episode.
but it was like it was different.
It was different. It was I well, okay, I don't want to hop to. Let's just hop to episode 7, and we'll jump back to episode 6 if need be. But it was different because, according to Ace, he let Chunky go because he felt like Chunky was him, and Chunky wanted to be free.
He wanted to be free like Chunky.
And I was like, Ace, Nancy yelling at you is me right now. He's a beloved, domesticated pet, and you just let him loose in
By the way, our girl connected those dots so quickly. She was like, I heard Florence. Why were you here? Why do you have a bandage on your finger? I recognize those teeth marks. Oh my God, you released. She's like immediately. She was like, "We're playing this board game, but I have time to come at you for Chunky."
She did, especially she also noticed, she's like, why is Nick humanely trapping vermin in the claw? What's happening?
That's right.
I was like, what was that? Like 45 seconds of dialogue for Kennedy as she was like
Yeah.
getting it together. And I said, oh no. It's even funnier that George is on the phone while Nancy is yelling. So you can't even quite hear what Nancy is saying. And George is trying to have a sincere, honest conversation with Carson as Nancy's blowing up in the background.
But from my understanding, we still don't have eyes on Chunky. He's still MIA, right?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Chunky is hanging around. Well, he could be around Icarus Hall, or he could have made his way back to the Claw.
interesting. Who would have thought that Chunky would be the through line of the final season?
We thought cute first case for Nancy, and the writers were like, no, deep exploration for character work in metaphor.
I don't like I feel like as soon as Ace said I wanted to be free like Chunky, or paraphrasing, I don't know what he said exactly, but as soon as he said that, I was like, I'm for my own sanity, I'm choosing to ignore that. And no shade to anybody that is like on board with the Chunky metaphors. I just like, not that I was like my reading is better, but I was like, I don't, it just doesn't fully make sense to me. It just was a lot of work for me to get from point A to point B with the Chunky metaphor. I don't know.
But they
Do you
went
feel the same
full.
way?
I was not prepared for him to say that.
Yeah.
That he let him go because he wanted to be free, just like Chunky. Because it was very much to me giving season one Ace. And I just don't know if that was where Ace would have been by season four. I mean, I know like in episode 6, the whole point of him trying to find Chunky is that he wants to get back to a friendship with Nancy. And he feels like if he can just provide her with the ferret that she's supposed to be looking for, that they can be like they were back then. It's something that he would have done anyway. And so he's taking time off of work to go look for this ferret while Nick takes care of him because Nick's very aware his friend is not in a good place emotionally, so he's trying to be supportive. But I don't know. I just felt like did we need to be free like Chunky though? Couldn't we have just? He's still somebody's pet.
See, the way that you just described pre-release Chunky, in my mind, it makes more sense for him to have released this ferret because he no longer needed that, right? He no longer needed that credit. He no longer needed to be seen that way by Nancy. He didn't need that validation because it just in my mind, it made more sense that he saw her and Tristan, felt a pang of jealousy, but was like, it seems more Ace to me to be like, I'm gonna let her do that because exactly what he said. I want us to be happy. And I felt like him seeing that was like, oh, she can be happy without me. And so in my mind, him releasing Chunky was like, I don't need to take this credit. I don't need this validation from her. I don't like, she can find him on her own. And just feel like releasing Chunky on her property was a way of putting Chunky closer to her so that she could find him on his own. My prediction with the whole Chunky thing was that like, we're gonna come into episode 7. She's be like, I found Chunky, and Ace was gonna be like, oh, you found him. Where'd you find him? And it was just gonna be that whole situation. I don't know. And I thought her hearing the car at the end of episode 6 was just like, because he didn't put any like value on that. He's like, oh, it's just a car. There's nothing special about it. But she's like, did you hear that? Like, obviously I felt like, okay, she recognized that sound, or it stood out to her. And then at the very end of episode 6, we see the leaves blow into Icarus Hall and hear the squeak, which I really wish they would have showed Chunky run through so that we would have known it was Chunky. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought just because this whole ferret storyline has turned my brain into scrambled eggs a little bit.
It got Bill. There's a depth to it that just is very surprising.
Unexpected. Yeah.
Yes. It's like there just really is. I feel like to continue to talk about Nace, for them to Do I want to? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna share this part. Um, I feel like we're doing a bit much for where they were in their relationship. I feel that it is it is peak romance. It is peak Harley
Hmm.
Quinn. Like it is it's a lot. And I know some people are really enjoying it, but like it's we don't need to do so much in order for this relationship to be valid or for it to
Even
be
their
endgame.
even their like tearful fight argument conversation they had in episode 7 felt a little like, in my opinion, non-essential to the episode we were watching,
Mm.
which that feels controversial, but you know what? I'm gonna stand by it. Like I don't, just that scene, I was like, there's a lot happened. You're right, there's a lot going on for this couple when we haven't seen them fully together and we're still building toward getting them together. There's just a lot of like moments of conflict still. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's well, they even had so in episode 6, they had Nick ask Ace, was it ever really friendship? And me, as a Drushan, is just sitting there like,
I know I needed him to put like a like a qualifier on that.
yeah.
Like, when was it ever really like, be more specific, Nick? Like, when are you talking? Like, what is the time frame you're talking about? Because I know it wasn't when you were dating Nancy, because like that was a non-issue when Nick and Nancy were together. Like, Ace was very much not on that radar as far as I'm concerned, as memory serves for me. So I'm like, can we say like in the past, we don't need to get super specific and be like, in the past month, has it been like, I just need him to like put a qualifier on that, because it does feel like kind of a bit of an erasure of what we have seen,
Mhm.
to just kind of pretend that it's been the whole time. Like if you were just watching this season, like if you happen to randomly see reruns on TNT, which isn't a thing right now, but like I'm just imagining like when I was a child and I was watching a show out of context in reruns and it was like the 4th season, and like that's all the information you're getting. If you're getting only the information from this season, it tells a different story, I feel like, than if you watched it from the beginning. And that's not to put the show down. I don't want anybody to get my words twisted. I'm just saying some of the things in this season, I'm like, we need to be a little bit more specific with how we're talking about this relationship. I think what I added on to what you said was more controversial. So
I just feel like so it's giving soap opera when it's been, some years or like maybe even a decade since a character has been back. Like off the top of my head, it'd be like when Hope came back in Bold and Beautiful, and then the show just pretended she had never been married to Wyatt Spencer, Liam Spencer's brother. Liam is Hope's big love, right? And so I remember when she hopped into like when they did the storyline, I was sitting there, I was like, I know y'all are not trying to have me sit here pretending like she was not married to his brother at one point. Why is he talking like he's never been married to this woman in his life? Like it's
just
just
gaslighting you.
just like they just don't ever really have scenes, which is fine with me. I wasn't like sold out to Wyatt and Hope. They were fine when they were on together, but like that's kind of what Nancy's giving. It's giving like Nick and Nancy were never together. Don't know what you mean. Like
When just like a season ago, like that was the big deal. Like she's watching Nick and George get engaged, and everyone was still like, "How are you feeling, girl?" And
no.
even then, we were like, "What is going on? Like, why is she still concerned about this?" I don't know. Is the like it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but like sometimes you pick up on these things and you're like, wait, we needed to maybe think about what that means. And I don't think we should have to like reach a little bit to recontextualize these things.
Yeah, I feel like it because a lot of what has happened, and obviously in previous seasons, informs the character growth. So
Yes.
I feel like there's no real need to have erasure. We could just have conversations. Like and they do it all the time in the show, like we do tend to refer to something that happened in the past that we're now like we're bringing up again because it's relevant. So for this, I'm like, can we Nick can talk to Ace about Nancy without trying to like have it be as if he'd never dated Nancy himself. Like it's not
Yeah,
really
and like
necessary.
without trying to minimize the importance of that relationship, that was very important to both of them.
Yeah.
And I know that Nick has obviously moved on, but even if he has moved on, it doesn't mean that that time isn't important to him or impacted him in some way. So I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's just kind of like, I don't know what else to add to that.
I know it just well, it also seems like it would be like a line best served by Bess, since that's Ace's Platanker.
Yeah.
But she is not Team Nace right now. She's very much Nancy, go get yours, girl. Have some fun out there. Like that's who she is, which I think is throwing some people off, which I think is also understandable considering she is the closest person to Ace. So the assumption would be that even if she wasn't Team Nace, she wouldn't necessarily be Team Tristan and Nancy. But she is
Yeah.
like, I don't just date, just feel better. That's what she
Is
wants
it,
her for her.
is she doing that because she's trying to protect Ace?
They haven't given us dialogue on that. Like if I wanted, I could you could infer it, I guess. But she doesn't seem to be having any conversations with Ace or about Ace when it comes to like Nancy's relationships with Nancy's connection to Tristan. So we're in
Mhm.
a very intriguing spot with her in terms of that whole romantic storyline going on. But to go back to something you said earlier, I too felt like the Nancy Ace scene in the middle of the like before we start doing the board game was a little off. I not well acted again. That's not like the
Oh,
issue.
they're beautiful.
It's the
Always.
always right, but it's the amount of emotion in urinating off of what we did. If we had gotten 2 seasons of Nace preparation, I'd be there with them. But we
Mhm.
got half a season, if that. We got the last few episodes of season 3, and yes, we were chugging along, but then we hit the tracks and we were just rolling. And so now I just feel like I'm on like I don't know, on skates, like trying to keep up with where they're going with the show with them, especially the breakup scene. We got a second breakup scene,
Yeah.
which again, wonderfully acted. Totally felt them. Loved that it was a parallel. I saw someone paralleled it between the first episode of the season and that the episode we watched, episode 7, and it matches. He leaves instead of staying.
Yeah. But didn't Nick also say in this episode to Jade, he said like they just broke up, but they weren't really even together. He
Mm-hmm.
said something to that effect, and I was like, oh, not Nick coming for their scalps.
He was like facts, but then he also had a line about how when he's telling Jade about uh Nancy and Ace and their doomed love, he was like, I don't want us to be like that. And I was like, well, you're actually dating Jade. These two have not even sat down for some dinner or a muffin. We haven't even gotten coffee. I need y'all to chill.
Nick was so tired in this episode. But oh my God, it was. Are we pivot? Let's pivot to Nick. We'll
Yeah.
probably circle back to Ace and Nancy at some point. But I love a Nick episode, and Kennedy said
Yes.
as much to us on Twitter. We love a Nick episode. He was the carryover dad energy from the past 2 episodes, but like we get to see Tunji be an action hero.
Mm-hmm.
Like to see Nick be the hero. Oh, it was just incredible. And like even I know I said a few pods ago that this show does not objectify Nick or Ace, and I still stand by that, even though Nick like ripped off his sleeve and he ripped off the front of his shirt, and we got to see some of his body as he's being an action hero. I still don't think it was. I don't think it was objectification. It was just like adding to
Mm-hmm.
the intensity of Nick stepping up, and I don't know. I just the whole sequence of him in the claw after he tells Jade to leave because he can't do this if he's concerned about her, which adorable. It was just it like to me rivaled the Superman and Lois season finale where like my jaw was just on the floor for like the last act. Like it was like right up there. I was like so unbelievably entertained just watching him in his silver.
Me too. I had the same thought. I was like, this is giving Superman and Lois season 3 finale. Like it was like they were like, we don't have the same budget, but I promise you, you're gonna get the same feeling. And it exactly was that. He was he was very much an action hero, as is very much holding out for a hero. Like that song was not playing, but that is what he was
I
giving.
tried to Shazam the song because I was like, this is some like 80s. Our friend Daniel probably knows what it is if it wasn't just some like random royalty free thing and it was an actual song. But I couldn't, I wanted to Shazam it and Shazam couldn't pick up on it. But the song was incredible. It just fit the whole vibe of this throwbacky, campy, practical effects, Buffy charms. You said like Disney Nickelodeon horror thriller,
Yes,
Stranger
it
Things. Like it
was.
was all like wrapped up in that realm. And I love when the show nods to that because it does it so well. It feels like a breath of fresh air from the past, if that makes sense.
It does. Well, because it feels like I love it's very much a know your TV history sort of
Yes.
vibe with this episode because it is if you were a kid growing up in the 90s in the early 2000s, like this just emulates it so well. Like this was the stuff we were watching, just with like older characters. Like they would
Yeah.
have been skewed younger when we were watching, but it's like, are you afraid of the dark? It's like Crypt
Yeah.
Keeper stuff. It's very much this probably would have been someone's favorite episode when they were younger. It's my favorite episode, one of my favorite episodes of Nancy Drew now.
Yeah.
I really love how smart the Nancy Drew writers are. And I loved how like you do have like Nick being very, very much the hero and very, very much husband material as he's running
Yeah.
around this claw, like in like destroying things and being the one to take down the Grim. And then you have Jade, his significant other, they come popping through the door, and there's how like I was like, how are we doing conflict resolution in the middle of him trying to take down this supernatural being? But it's working. It's serving. He's explaining to them what was going on and why he hasn't been upfront about what's going on in his life, and they're just absorbing it. Jade is like, a lot's going on right now, but I'm down. I'm here. Like they throw that silver platter and it hits the Grim and Jade's like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do next? And he's like, I need you to leave. Thank you, but I need you to go.
I see. I was a little bit confused, and this is our favorite segment. Reed asks a stupid question. I couldn't tell if Jade could see, like, if anybody else could see what the group was seeing with the Grims and stuff in the board game, because no one could see, like, when Bess was tied up when she was giving her statement with Carson, like, no one could see that, but Jade could see the Grims that Nick was fighting. I'm not trying to call it inconsistency. I just couldn't figure out if Jade could actually see that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I was wondering about that too because, like you mentioned, nobody else can see anything else, and I don't know if like one this is supposed to be an indicator that Jade has been around the supernatural before and therefore can see beyond the veil or something, or if Jade is just perceptive and they were able to tell that the Grim was in front of Nick because Nick was cowering backwards and looking right at the person. But I feel like Jade also threw something else and shouldn't have been able to know where the Grim was.
I don't know, but was Nick in that end scene? He was fighting the big group of them, the with the one that was holding the green globe, right? That's what he was fighting at the end,
Yes.
that big
Mm-hmm.
group. But the whole group could see that in the beginning. They
Oh,
just couldn't
okay.
see each other's from the. I think I just answered my our question.
Okay, so you can see the one with
I
the
guess
green
everybody
orb.
can see that, but like when it's your turn on the board, only you can see what you're fighting.
Okay.
I guess is the gist.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah,
So
okay. We got
no,
there. Critical thinking. We did
we got there. Yes.
it.
Okay. So Jade perhaps has not encountered the supernatural before, but if they're going to be Nick's partner, they have are along for the ride now. Honorary member of the Drew
Welcome.
Crew.
Welcome.
Yes, please sit down,
And
enjoy.
it didn't seem to be a deal breaker for them. They were like,
Mm-mm.
well, hand me some silver. What do I got to do? As jarring as it was to get all that information at once, they were oddly game. I don't know if I would have been the same way.
I know. I mean, I was a little distracted by Jade though too because they're wearing a piano top. It's like a little sweater, and I was like, oh, I want that. But like also, like I feel like it just I think this season everyone's kind of just there with the supernatural because even the police chief, even though the police chief's reaction was to be like, I saw that and I reject it. I reject it from my narrative. And Jade's reaction was like, I saw that and it's a part of you and I'm here. Let's kiss in this beautiful close-up shots with the moonlight coming through the window.
It was very that.
It was. And again, I did love the conflict resolution there because at the top of the episode, our man was just trying to have a date with their person.
And
And
he was exhausted after the 1-2 punch of Ace and then Nancy. But there was a lot of humor in this episode from Nancy consistently being a menace with her Nickerson chants and just completely ignoring his better judgment and killing them all in the board game and being like, well, it's up to you now. And then Ace has got a few like one-liners, like him kicking off his shoes. There's another one that he really got me. I don't remember what it was, but there were some moments of humor that I mean the show does that so well, throwing humor in and keeping it a little lighter, even though there was a lot of heavy stuff.
it's true. Was the Ace thing, was it when he had to pull the hair off of the
I
figure?
think.
And there he was like, oh, lock of hair. And Nancy is like, I think you actually have to take it off the scalp. And he was like,
Some
rip.
of those fights were like really gory, like when Nick twisted the foot off of the 1 gram. I was like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
that was a lot.
Okay, so okay, now I have to circle back to what we were talking about earlier about budget for TV shows. You see how we could do something amazing without breaking the bank? Like
Yeah.
that's like I think majority all like um practical effects. It's like someone made a foot and they dipped it in some goo. Like
Yeah.
we have an actor who's actually the character with the orb. You know, the orb lights up inside. Wouldn't be surprised if it was battery operated and not put in post. Like that's another part of the nostalgia factor, right? Because that is what we were watching back before they had like they went CGI crazy and were in post for a year in order to do things. They just made stuff.
Yeah. And it was especially nostalgic to this point, but also kind of not about practical effects. The voiceover of the game board was like so nostalgic to me for some reason. I don't know. It was just a really nice campy addition to the whole thing. I
Yeah,
love that.
they used to do a lot of voiceovers in the game shows, especially for kids. Like it didn't sound like Legends of the Hidden Temple, but like that's the voice I was used to
Yeah.
hearing as a child. And then I feel like they would always interrupt the kids' game with some type of announcer. So, or especially if it's a woman, it's like time is running out. Like it was like those were like the thing. So it just reminded me of that, where like you have this really what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna just be 80s rad, this really rad voice playing over the game. And it's just, I mean, yes, Nancy Drew, like, yes.
But the game, they didn't get what they wanted out of it, right?
They didn't, so they wanted to release Ron. They didn't release him, but somehow, for reasons, he was able to communicate after the orb had been
He had his own game
destroyed.
piece
Yeah, it
at the
appeared,
end.
and he was at town hall, and that is where the black door is.
Okay. I mean, they got there.
They did that. Speaking of the board, though, it was life. That was that's basically what we look like we were doing with these amazing like figures. Kennedy said she took her Nancy one as she should because
Yeah.
it was amazing.
I couldn't tell if those were real or not.
I, they were
I mean,
really
obviously it
bright.
was because she took it home, but
No, I see what you mean though, because they were kind of the way that they had them lit. Like if they were special effects, like I wouldn't have been surprised if someone said that they were.
yeah.
But they must have been 3D printed.
Yeah,
Uh,
the cinematography for the board game was incredible. Like you'd think like characters playing a board game would be kind of isolating. It's like you can't see that, but the way that they focused on the board game made you feel like it just felt really larger than life. And I
mhm.
think that's what made the episode so special is like they're playing a board game, but we're like involved in every aspect of it. Like we can see the
Mhm.
close-ups on the board. Like I don't know. I just really love this episode.
They have this whole, I feel like this season is like nostalgia though, which I wonder if that's going to become, I mean, it's already a through line, but I wonder if there's going to be a reason for it. Because they have like every episode, there seems to be something seated that like is reminiscent of the past. I mean, like,
Mhm.
and it's becoming more and more apparent. Like, obviously, it's a season about like the not the claws, the Hershey Bay's wrongs, past wrongs, but to have that even be in like the prompt things too is
Mhm.
just really great. I mean, the I'm never going to be over Bess rolling out that TV with the VHS tape to pop in. Like it was just, I was like, just so many flashbacks. Like I'm just like, yes, girl, show that videotape from the 80s, please.
Mhm.
Loved it. Oh, and the overhead project, not the overhead projector, they did that. I wish I remembered what it was called, but you put the little piece of plastic over it that has the drawings on it
Oh
and it
yeah.
projects.
That is throwback.
Yeah, and they did that in the 70s episode. So like I just weird it has to be a reason for it. I know I already asked the mole for a tabletop book for a coffee table book for Riverdale, but I want one specifically for Nancy Drew season 4.
I know,
Like
like I want
just
to know. I feel like we don't get enough information from the creative team outside of like if we're asking on Twitter. Like I want
Mhm.
a documentary. I want a retrospective. I want the coffee table book to explain the effects and stuff. Like it just doesn't get what it deserves,
It doesn't, this is why the studio should be putting their money. Like
right?
less super expensive shows that may or may not hit, and more like coffee table books, paying for retrospectives or like featurettes to go on the complete series box set that just really tell you about the journey of making the show.
It really helps build the legacy of the shows as well because like nowadays a show can be super beloved, but it lives and dies on the streaming service
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And but we have like supplemental materials for like Seinfeld and Friends, and I'm not nagging on that. Like they're not just those two shows, but there are shows that are so steeped in pop culture and will never not be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because we have so much other information to outsource to besides just watching the episodes. Like there's books, there's specials, there's reunions, there's all these other things. But shows today, it's just like you air, you hit your designated streaming service, and then we talk about you on Twitter sometimes. Every 6 months, we'll be like, "Oh, remember the show?" That's about it.
I know, and I don't understand why. Like there are certain shows I figure will probably get something afterward after they completely finish, like Stranger Things, obviously. Uh,
Mhm.
when Euphoria ever decides to come back, I think it's 2025 for them. By the time they end, there'll definitely be something. I mean, if they're going to give Sam Levinson access to film, like the like actual film grade film to do season 2, y'all can pay for a book.
Yeah, I think they actually do. They release like hardcover a box set of the season one scripts.
Really?
I'm pretty sure, and it was like $90. Is this a fever dream? Am I making this up? Somebody, somebody tell me
Is
if
this
I'm
for
correct.
Stranger Things or for Euphoria?
Euphoria.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that happened. We'll Google after.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You know what? Can we get some treatment for that for other shows?
I
Can
know, right?
I put some respect in their name? My goodness. I think that might be it for Nancy. Oh, wait. I wanted to check in on the romances. So we gave our NACE temperature, which
Hmm.
is, we're not boiling, but we're here. We just want the train to move in a way, I guess, that makes sense in the story without devaluing things that came before. I feel like the obviously Ace's love interest has to come soon because we have reached the halfway point of the season. Fanson, I know some of the Fanson shippers are a little worried considering how into Jade he is, and they do seem to be making a point of like he is with Jade. And that might end up being Endgame. I'm not sure. Their relationship ended up being
No.
more serious in episode 7 than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I mean, it works for what it is now, but things can change on a dime. Jade can one day be like, this is too much for me. I always just remember how quickly Ace and Amanda ended, right? Like that ended.
True.
I mean, they were together for a while, a lot of it off screen,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
want to say. But like when it ended, it ended. So yeah, I know there's a lot of anxiety about the specific relationships, and I do kind of feel it, but there's a part of me that's like, and I know we only have 6 episodes left. Like we're past the halfway point. So I'm kind of like, okay, we need some things to either start boiling or like we're dumping the boiled water out because we're done with it. So I'm like, well, what's gonna happen? But I'm not super, super, super concerned because I know how things work on the show. Like things can just at the drop of a hat, like they have one case and poof, the character ramifications and personal ramifications of a specific case can change anything. But the George and Nick thing, Ace turning, not to, I think we just opened up a new conversation as we were preparing to end, but it reminded me that Ace went to George asking about like jealousy. Like,
Hmm.
how do you feel seeing Nick with um Jade? And George was kind of really nonchalant about it. She didn't seem to really put too much stock in that,
Yeah, it was interesting.
right?
She did. I think I'm not sure how much time has passed because time is loosey goosey
Yeah.
in Nancy Drew. But she did seem to be like, it's not great, but I bet myself into work, I'm fine. They do seem to have
That was
really
the line. He was like, I have dead bodies at the morgue. That
yes.
was the line.
Which was great response from Ace. He's like, I'll just be amongst the dead. It's fine. But I don't know, I found that conversation to be interesting because it should be fresh for George, but she's not really acting like it's fresh. Now she is a compartmentalizer at times, so it could be that like
Yeah.
if they wanted to do an episode where she just pops out and says that she's struggling, they could definitely do that. I mean, we were popping out with a lot of things. Like we had discoveries, this learning different discoveries in this episode, which threw me. Happy for the representation, just threw me a bit.
Yeah, it was uh what's the adjective I want to use? It was a unexpectedly grounded moment for an episode like this.
Mhm.
Like it was very entrenched in like on a human level. Like it was like humanity in an episode that was okay, we're fighting board game monsters. Not saying that it didn't have a place or didn't fit. It just was kind of like, oh, I was not expecting Carson to get that real over the phone with George. Like you said, great representation. It was just like, oh, okay. I didn't know we were gonna get that heavy outside of Ferris.
Yeah, I think because I feel like then I was trying to remember back. I know he's never said that he's dyslexic, and so I'm like, I feel like we didn't put, unless I'm missing something, we didn't put that in the previous seasons.
I don't think
Uh,
so. I was like, because I know George was he was telling her that while she was on the foreground and they were in the background, and Nancy was yelling at Ace about Chunky. I was halfway expecting George to turn around and ask Nancy about it, and Nancy would be like, "Oh yeah, he is." Not that George wouldn't believe him, but it was, yeah, it was an interesting inclusion.
it was. I wonder if we'll see more. Like, so for anybody who wants to see dyslexic representation on screen, Will Trent is an
Hmm.
ABC procedural that has been renewed. So you won't be launching into a show whose fate is undecided. It'll be back.
Although who knows when it's going to come back.
True, true, but it is expected for 2024. But the main character, literally Will Trent, is dyslexic, and it is talked about in the story. It informs how he investigates, and so if you want to see that or you want to give it a try, I would recommend that series wholeheartedly because he sees
Mhm.
things that other people don't see because of the way that he has to move around a crime scene, and they do show like assistive technology that he uses, why it might be difficult for him. He carries around a recorder because he can't really read his reports.
Mhm.
And so I mean, it's a great show. Like, but if you want to see dyslexic representation, like full out, that would be a show that you could tune into. Um, But I wonder if they're going to showcase that with Carson, because he hasn't used any assistive technology or spoken about it before. But again, great to have representation. George also said that she believes that she has ADHD, and she was told in school that she should go see if that is the case. I wonder if she will go see if that's the case, or if we're just going to self-diagnose and move forward.
I don't know, but it makes sense about that scene when Carson looks at the board and he just erases it, and Bess takes a picture to save George's feelings. Because I was sad for George. I was like, "What, Carson? What are you doing?"
I got it though.
She worked hard.
She did work hard. I got it though because it wasn't. I thought he was going to be teaching her a means of or structuring the information clearly.
She had like arrows and everything all over the place.
But so that's why I did not expect the conversation to open to, people learn differently and they remember differently. And this is how I do it. And this is how you do it. I thought it was a beautiful, open, vulnerable conversation.
Yes.
I just was not ready for it. I just wasn't prepared.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be the outcome. I thought it was going to be like Carson undercut my work and I feel bad about it. I thought that was going to be the story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of glad it's not in retrospect because, I don't know, end of sentence. But yeah, unexpected, not unwanted, not unwarranted, but I don't know if you heard that thunder, but it's storming.
Oh.
If you saw me like jump, it was because thunder came out of nowhere.
Oh no. I feel like that means we should probably sign off.
This guy's like, no more Nancy talk.
They're like, okay, well, listen, we caught the signs.